Hey everyone, in this video I will show you the parks that people made for the first stage of our timeline park contest. Now if you missed the first stage you can still join in. You can find the rules for this in the rules document which I have linked in the video description. Now there were quite a few people who joined this first stage, so I will just go through the parks while I read out the stories that people submitted for their entry. Okay, here's the first park. This one was made by Amy. I will now just read out the story. I will go through all the parks in alphabetical order. So, for Amy's story. For my timeline park, the theme is environmental issues, which my 9-year-old daughter came up with. She is also going to be writing the story each month. The Island of Sadness. Amy and Lily found an island and it was full of trash and disgusting stuff. So they decided to open up a little park to try and make some money to clean it up. While they were picking up some of the rubbish, they saw a dead orca on the beach. The forest was empty and there was no animals. There was also no animals in the water, because the water was so disgusting. There's a little cafe on the beach that gives a free drink to people who bring an empty bucket from the stand and fill it with rubbish from the island. Okay, here's the park from AJ. Atchafalaya Interstate 10 Rest Stop, 1947. TLDR. A family-owned Louisiana swamp rest stop and restaurant bought 2 small rides to accompany the nature boardwalk for the folks who want to stay a while. And here's the full details. Slide, 1947. A small cart seating up to 8 of your friends slides down a gentle slope along the Levi walls. And then there's Roswell, also a ride from 1947. A fast-paced spinning ride inspired by recent events in Roswell, New Mexico. Nature boardwalk, where you can see 2 schools of fish, some live alligators and an abandoned building. Outdoor picnic area, where if you look closely you can see fireflies. River barge pushing lumber from upriver to the off-screen port city. Rest stop, a restaurant with rooftop and balcony seating. Okay, here's the park from Astroturd. The Confluence. It has served as the border of the kingdom for as long as anyone can remember. 3 years ago, any sane person would have avoided this place at all costs, but that's changing now that an outpost has been established. It seems travelers are interested in seeing the edge of the known world and peering over into the bordering lands. The white pillars to the east are familiar to any respectable citizen of the kingdom. There's no doubt they are unnatural, most likely created with magic, but so far they appear harmless. It is believed that the magicians are long gone. What's more concerning is the gloomlands to the south. The forests there are dark. What's worse is, they appear to be spreading. It doesn't require a seer to know that it's bad omen. The land to the west belongs to the forest dwellers. They have refused all invitations for trade. It appears they would rather keep to themselves and their trees. The outpost has grown quite a bit in 3 years. There are stables, an inn, and a feast hall to support the travelers. More still are attracted by the entertainment options. A trebuchet has been repurposed to give visitors a thrill. A small riding yard gets inexperienced travelers acquainted to horseback. It seems the kingdom will expand to the confluence after all. But what will the settlers find? Okay, here's the entry from Axolotl. Now his story is a bit of a weird one to narrate, because it has some parts which are redacted. It's supposed to read like probably like an excerpt from a top secret facility, something like that. But yeah, let's go ahead and read it out. So, item RC73, object class Euclid. RC73 is an amusement park carousel or merry-go-round found in perfect condition in the forest 2 kilometers west of Redacted. RC73 consists of a rotating circular platform with wooden horses that serve as seats for riders. Once a full load has been detected, RC73 will begin rotating and producing music without any identifiable source of power. Subjects in the vicinity of RC-73 have described experiencing an extreme urge to move towards RC-73 and redacted. After RC-73 completes 9 rotations, the carousel will stop and all riders appear to vanish from existence. Item RC-74. Object Class Keter. RC-74 is a non-Euclidean object that is found in redacted. Unknown molecular and chemical composition. Color appears to be of magenta, but no electromagnetic emissions were detected using traditional instruments. Data expunged. Letter from Administrator. Molecular biology and mimetic laboratories Alpha, Delta and Omega have been assembled near RC-73 and RC-74 for further study. Main site designated Site 92. Fictional theme park Lake Cryptid has been created to attract additional volunteers for RC-73. 2 additional rides have been assembled to aid in the disguise. Initial deception has been successful, other than redacted. Priority focus Alpha, Delta and Omega is to understand the possible dangers and origins of RC-73 and RC-74. Exploration of nearby surroundings for additional anomalies recommended. Okay, here's the park from Biryon. The story is a little bit shorter. It's been a long time since Ember H. her death. A few fans of this superstar made her house into a museum. Ironically enough, Ember lives in a lake house. As we all know, Ember was a big fan of theme parks. So her fans are turning the museum into a small theme park. So now you can spin back in time or walk through the beautiful maze around her house. Rest in peace, Ember H. Okay, here's the story from Darkoro. It has some words that are difficult to pronounce, but I'll try my best. Sir Ian MacLeod, a Scottish-born oil baron who spent the last 30 years out in the United Arab Emirates, finds himself wanting something new, something exciting. He's got a lot of money and he's willing to spend it on a passion project as he nears the later years of his life. He also wants to return to his home country after spending so long in such a warm land, and as such he decides he wants to bring Scotland a proper, well-maintained theme park. He gets to work purchasing an area of land alongside a riverbank, hiring in a bunch of contractors to prepare the land, buying in a couple of old fairground rides, and working with designers to make them flourish and stand out as permanent fixtures. He named the park... Okay, here comes the difficult part. He named the park As a Fine. I tried. As a Fine. That's probably it. Or Waterfall River in Gaelic, because of the waterfall in the river close by. Now with the first stage complete, he's invited friends, family and a few investors to come and see the work that has gone into the project so far, looking to score some extra funding to really accelerate this process. All 4 investors seem interested, but they all want a 50% share in this project for their investment. The question is, which investor will Sir Ian choose to work alongside? Investor 1 works for the Royal Bank of Scotland. He has a lot of money at his disposal that he wants to throw at the project, but he lacks any expertise in the field. He would be a silent investor, but would provide the most capital. Investor 2 works for Grant's Whiskey. He already works for a well-known business, and a sponsorship from there would certainly bring in a lot of visitors and marketing expertise. His capital isn't too much, however, and he'd be looking to get the Grant's name somewhere in the park later on. Investor 3 is the ex-owner of M&D's. His capital is questionable considering how his last venture went bankrupt, but he managed to run a theme park for a few years before a bad accident on a coaster ruined his reputation. He has a lot of good contacts though. Investor 4 is one of the top brass of Six Flags. They want to venture into Europe again and see this park as a good opportunity. They have lots of contacts in the field and a decent amount of capital to invest, but the park would fall under the Six Flags banner, something Sir Ian isn't too fond of. Which investor should Ian pick? Well, and then the players were allowed to choose in the review which investor Sir Ian should pick. So we'll probably see that in stage 2, which investor was chosen. Okay, here's my park. So after the passing away of Sir Henry Dirkling, his sons inherited their huge family orchard. James Dirkling, the youngest of the sons, inherited a small piece of the tree orchard. Unlike his other brothers, he did not intend to plant trees on his plot. Instead, he decided to build a dirt track on the land and to let the local people drive on it in go-karts. He also turned a small cornfield into a maze. His brothers didn't think much of it, but James was determined to make his little park successful. Okay, here's the story from Dogs. Enjoy my outlet of civic nerdery for the next year. My goal is to hopefully capture a process where a recently sold office park with boring buildings and parking lot hellscape transforms into a colorful thrill park that completely dominates the area. Who knows what can happen? The news. Dogstown Press. Office sale slams brakes on Cone Dodgers Club. Local autocross racers for the Dogstown Kart Club of America have been on a constant search for legal tarmac to race their cars on. While the sport of autocross is safe enough, limited to tire barriers and traffic cones, enthusiasts of Dogtown had never had a variety of private lots on which to race. With the sale of Bark's office park on exit 57 under contract, the number of available spaces continues to diminish. A warm January and the news of the sale has prompted the Dogstown Kart Club to organize a spontaneous autocross event at the location. Club members are encouraged to visit and drive one last time on this race-friendly lot before it is closed forever. Alright, then we have the story from Enochs. Welcome to Steam Train of the Three Valleys. This outdoor museum is located in the Ardennen, Belgium. The organization of volunteers who run this museum have decided to do something special for the 2021 Steam event. The restoration of these old engines are very expensive, so they have made the decision to use the unused farmland near the depot as a place for a little fair, including some old school attractions and an old-timer show, which will surely bring in more visitors. And then we have the story from Fedwell. This park is inspired by a certain type of small family amusement park that is found around the US Midwest. I grew up very close to one, and when I was younger, they were a small park with just a mini golf course and batting cages. Over the years they have expanded, adding more rides and even a junior coaster. Lil Sluggers is based on that park. In rural America there's not much to do, so this park was founded to give families that live nearby something cheap and fun to pass the time with. Guests can enjoy the natural scenery of the mini golf or improve their baseball skills at the batting cages. Guests can buy concessions at the ticket house, and there's also a standalone kiosk that sells hot dogs. Okay, here's the story from Henry Ford. Roger always wanted to run a theme park of his own ever since he was a little kid. After he graduated college with a business administration degree, a golden opportunity presented itself. A small park had been put up for sale on the edge of town. Appropriately named Edgeton Park, it had been built to appeal to the wealthy and well-to-do that lived nearby. As such, the park only boasted 3 rides, a carousel, Ferris wheel and a swinging ship. After buying the park, Roger made it his mission to expand it into a bona fide theme park. Bona fide, I don't know. Things could only get better from here. Okay, then we get to the park from Herbert. Now, I'm probably gonna butcher some words in this story, so bear with me. This is the story of An Dung Nguyen Trang, a Vietnamese rice farmer whose big dream was to own his very own theme park. He drained the water from his rice fields, bought a couple of go-karts and 2 worn-down attractions from a defunct park nearby, restoring them as well as he could. Then he opened the park and hoped for the best. Okay, the next story is from Ireton. It is quite a long story, so let's get on with it. An alternate history of Ranchito, New Mexico, Part 1. Situated just north of the city of Albuquerque, New Mexico, Ranchito was a small town settled by gold mining prospectors who worked at many of the local gold mines. The town provided rail transport to nearby Albuquerque thanks to branch line of the nearby Atchison, Topeka and Santa Fe Railway, which followed the Rio Grande River from Albuquerque to Santa Fe. As the gold mining industry collapsed in the early 1900s, coal mines took over and the local miners began work in extracting coal from many of the local deposits along the river. This was hard, back-breaking work, which is why Ranchito became such a special place for the miners. Jens' saloon was always full of activity and was a great place to meet friends, have a drink, or find some sporting women. Ranchito was also a great place to grow a family. The various shops provided many common goods and supplies, and the local church gave sanctuary for self-growth, while doubling as the local schoolhouse throughout the week, led by Headmaster M. Armarias. Life continued until the Great Depression hit hard. The coal mines were struggling with continued production, and local farmers were forced to sell their farms due to the poor revenues. A local farming tycoon known as Cowboy Mackett began to buy up all of the local farming properties in an effort to continue his monopoly on the area. Little is known about where or how Cowboy Mackett made all of this money, but Mackett Ranch continued to grow exponentially even during these hard times. Mackett Ranch provided many local families income working as farmhands around the ranch or cooking and cleaning within the estate. Not only was the pay substantial for the area, as an additional bit of gratitude, Cowboy Mackett hosted a weekly meal catered by his head chef, left-handed Geoff, as a way to encourage community within his staff and spread some extra joy through these depressing times. The beginnings. The continued prosperity of this small village began to draw the attention of local governments. Due to continued ongoing financial problems in Albuquerque, the newly elected governor of New Mexico, Clyde Tingley, decided to move the annual New Mexico State Fair to a recently constructed fairground along the eastern border of Ranchito. The hope was to draw interest to the beauty of the natural landscape and to reward the residents with the honor of hosting the fair. The governor could see that Ranchito would continue to be a draw in the area north of Albuquerque and hoped to encourage future growth of this region. We step into the town of Ranchito in the summer of 1936, the inaugural year of the New Mexico State Fair in its new location. Nobody could imagine that at this time, these very humble beginnings would evolve into something so spectacular. Until next time. Okay, then we have a story from Jabo. The Rubicon Lumber Company is a family-run manufacturer of timber products, which owns a substantial holding of valuable timberland in the rugged Sierra Nevada foothills in California. Founded by the industrious Brooklyn transplant Red Meadows in 1932, the company is now one of the few remaining producers of timber in the highly urbanized state, operating one of the last timber flumes in North America, which transports freshly cut logs from the upland forests down to the Rubicon River to float down the Narrows to the company's mill. Rubicon Lumber also runs a narrow-gauge railroad, which transports the milled lumber to nearby Roseville for shipping. Most of the property straddles the rugged Rubicon River Canyon, with its office located off Highway 44, where Pilot Creek flows down the steep canyon walls to meet the river just below the flume. Red Meadows, aside from being a timber baron, had a side obsession: amusement rides. Beginning in the 1950s, Red sought to recreate his childhood memories at Coney Island by converting a small plot of unprofitable meadowland into a miniature amusement park, which steadily grew until his passing in 1993. After his death, the company passed to Red's sons, Junior and Keen Meadows. Keen, the elder son and stoic, business-minded leader, had no interest in the amusement park. Despite the enthusiastic Junior's protests, Keen blocked any expansion of the small park into the surrounding profitable timberland. This did not stop Junior from investing his portion of Rubicon Lumber's earnings into the park, gradually transforming it from a dated collection of carnival rides into a state-of-the-art, if a bit cramped, collection of modern theme park attractions. Tragically, Keen Meadows passed away in December 2020, passing sole ownership of the company to Junior. Though saddened by his brother's death, Junior now seeks to realize his childhood dream of expanding his tiny obsession into the rugged wilderness of the Rubicon Canyon. The sky is the limit. Okay, the next story is from Jean-Pierre Legrand. Asana Park was a small upcoming park right next to the Asana mountain range. The city hoped to make more money with it and get more guests to the mountain. But unfortunately, it didn't work out because the place was very old and not many people came there at a yearly base. So they decided to close it off and destroy it completely. But after 13 years, they decided to renovate the old ski lift that led up the mountain, and so wanted to rebuild a park in the same place where the old one stood. They weren't sure if they could do it, so they sold the land to the Sunny Frontiers Company, and they are slowly allowed to build a park. Because the company hasn't got very much money left, they need to start small. But can they do what the city couldn't? The next story is from Kanaifa. As a young man, Kanaifa always had dreams of owning a real theme park. When he turned 35, he finally got the chance. He inherited a big piece of land from his great-grandfather, with a few buildings already on the land. With the help of Swag Tiddies and Mackett, he was able to buy a spinning ride and a mini lunch tower. Along with these two rides, he also got his hands on a ski ball machine and a small shooting gallery. And so, Cannyland was born. Okay, the next park is from Manticore. Welcome to a stereotypical farmscape of the Netherlands. Here you can see a classical Dutch farm filled with tulip fields, an old farm residence and some modern greenhouses. There's also an old windmill alongside its modern counterparts, the wind turbines. A rich farmer has bought some old rides from carnies to entertain the kids when tourists come to visit the tulip fields. There are bumper cars, a simulator, and the kids can even ride a horse. For some refreshments, the farmer has appealed to some local caterers to help out. Thanks to Amy for helping me with grammar. Alright, the next story is from Mulder. It was a normal boring day for Mulder, working his minimum wage job in the city, when suddenly he got a call from an attorney who said he had been searching for many years for the heir to a property in Jotunheimen, Norway. A relative from over a century ago had run a sawmill there, which was now abandoned and overtaken by nature. Mulder's mind went all over the place, imagining what he could do with his property. He traveled up into the mountains to his new property, which he saw needed a lot of work, to say the least. He had always dreamt of owning a place deep in nature, but how could he make his dream come true? He wasn't exactly swimming in money at the moment. Some friends suggested they build a racetrack there, a place to have fun, in a private vacation place. A good idea, he thought, and they went to work. The racetrack became a success, and they had so much fun there that word spread around to the neighboring towns. People came in droves to check it out. A bit reluctant at first to allow many people there, since it was just a private place for a group of friends. When he got to know the people better and knew that they were willing to pay him to hang out there, a realization occurred to him. Could he build a small theme park there and maybe someday finally quit his dreary job? Mulder took out a small loan to afford a little boat hire and ordered some food and drinks for the guests. It was a rough start, but after a while the place started to earn him a small profit, and maybe, he thought, could the dream come true? Okay, the next story is from Orange Lord. During the early 1910s, a fruit farmer won big in the lottery. He used some of his money to build a new water wheel to give his home power and a small park with a merry-go-round and a maze, where he can sell his fruit and sponsor his company. Okay, and then the next story is from QDude24. There once was a small amusement park in Hilversum, with not many people knowing about it. So being who I am, I researched this park and based this park on it. The name of that park was Anna's Hoeve. This first stage shows the big restaurant on the left, with the house of the chef on the right. In the back is a small playground, with a chair-o-plane, which was actually in the park, and a self-built helicopter lift, which was not in the real park. And then we have the park from R. Adrian, 1994. Following the closure of the international port, Southmouth City Council are desperate to regenerate the local seafront, which currently consists of a large abandoned dockyard, a muddy duck pond, and some underutilized green space. A mysterious business person has offered to help revitalize Southmouth by building a large amusement park with world-class attractions, but the cautious council, who are loath to upset their uptight residents, have provisionally offered planning permission for a small mini-golf course and some gardens. However, if the mini-golf attraction proves to be successful, the park may get the opportunity to expand and create something truly special. Okay, here's the story from Real Steel. In a former gravel pit, the construction of the main restaurant Haus Auensee was started near Leipzig in 1911. On May 4th, 1912, the Luna Park Company was founded from Real Steel. In 1914, the Ferris wheel was opened at the Auensee, the first amusement ride to the restaurant. The house was located on a small artificial lake. Word spread quickly and the place became increasingly popular in the ever-growing city of Leipzig. Here people finally found peace from the constant city noise. Okay, then we have the story from Ruffle. There was once a man called David Hauptung who lived in a rural area in Germany. He was the proud owner of a piece of land, which he transformed eventually into a natural graveyard. As the times went on, he noticed that less people wanted to get buried in a natural graveyard, and cremation was more popular. That's why he set his mind on other things. With a piece of land that was still unused, he started a little park, the Hauptung Park. He bought some second-hand rides, like the Hudson Bay from Walibi Holland and the tramboat from Attractiepark Slagharen. With those rides and a mini-golf course, the park was set and used as a small but profitable start to a journey that Mr. Hauptung did not expect beforehand. Alright, then here's the park from Ridarius. A classic small town mini-golf and go-kart track and driving range. Located right across from the town's famous ice cream and burger joint, the supermarket and gas station. Quickly becoming a hot spot on summer nights, the area is looking to expand. The next park is from Shen Kitchen. Mega Mercado Mega Market has been up and running for 3 years now. It has provided the best in quality goods and services for the local community. This year, however, business has been very successful, a bit too successful. The IRS has begun investigation and shortly planned to audit the store. Senor Reyes, the business owner, knows that this is due to his illegal operation of money laundering. To save both his business and the risk of being imprisoned, Senor Reyes has decided he needs to bring in rides and attractions as a way to show his extra income is legitimate. Being that this market is in the middle of nowhere, this may prove to be a challenge. Okay, here's the story from Scorpion. It is the year 2002. We are somewhere in northern Germany, near the Dutch border. K. Schmidt inherited an empty property with an old inn. He made the decision to realize his dream of having his own amusement park there. Some used rides were purchased. In addition, the old inn was extensively renovated. According to K. Schmidt, the first few weeks were successful. There are already plans to enlarge the park. Okay, then here we have the story from Soap and Butter Sandwich, who went with a completely different theme than most other people. The Wasteland people, after fleeing from the invasion of the cool dudes, have set up a new park in an old airbase hangar to keep themselves entertained, with many plans to expand into the barren wasteland environment around the base and the volcano. Okay, then here we have the park from Swag Tiddies. The park name is Wings and Things Fun Fair. In 1968, Wings and Things, a fried chicken restaurant, opened 40 minutes outside of San Diego, California. It quickly became well known for its quality food and boisterous owner. Swaggart Titterton was a gracious man who loved two things: ranch dipping sauce and amusement parks. After he mastered the perfect recipe for ranch dipping sauce to go along with his grandma Mama Ria's chicken, he immediately began plans on building a fun fair in the lot behind the restaurant. A few months later, he had acquired two fairground rides, Carousel and Ferris Wheel, from traveling fairs that went out of business, and a vintage car ride that his good friend Malekith and Squire Tont built. He hired a crew of loyal friends to work the fun fair: Benjamin Kitch, a local artist turned groundskeeper, who has famously turned the back lot into luscious gardens; Emil Young, a new to the area youngster looking to prove himself; and Wyatt T. Hacks, son of a wealthy business owner on the East Coast who helped with the original investments for the restaurant. The leased land around Wings and Things Fun Fair is undeveloped, besides a local grocery store, strip mall, and Oli Bolly warehouse lot. Swaggart foresees a lot of opportunity. This looks to be the beginning of a grand adventure. Come join us and see what happens next. Okay, here's the park from Trumatharium. Well, there's not really a park yet. He more or less set the stage for a park to be placed in this location. So, the old biowaste handling factory right outside the town has in this time wrecked the entire ecosystem of the vicinity. The waters have been highly affected by the management's poor handling of the waste they keep around. The lake that holds most of the town's drinking water has been polluted to the extent that it's even hazardous to touch it. That's what happens when certain boomers accidentally have open leakage into a lake, just to keep wallets fat. In an attempt to solve this, the factory have put up a generator that was supposed to bring in fresh water to the process in need, but they instead drained the whole reservoir that feeds the lake otherwise. The citizens of the town are outraged and have finally stepped in to close the factory once and for all. The police have showed up just to make sure no unnecessary violence will occur at the site. The management have already fled the factory grounds, but some workers are still around, oblivious to the marching in the streets. An unknown tycoon has heard the news and is on their way to the site to inspect the grounds. Will they manage to solve the crisis at hand and thus restore the nature's original state? Or is the lake and the ecosystem up for a battle of long-drawn decay and misery? Okay, and then here's the final story. This one's from Elvenwood. 1980. The old west town of Scornstone, Nevada, has grown more popular over the past year. After a disappointing harvest, your old Billy Dooley decides his farm could actually benefit from Wild West nerds visiting the once so glorious town of Scornstone. Dooley makes his horses accessible for peeps and installs a carousel from his last savings. It was the right decision. Every day, families and Wild West fanatics combine the trip to Scornstone with a visit to Billy's farm. Turnovers have increased, and the town decides to invest in parking area, which is still under construction. To be continued. Okay, those were all the parks that I have received for the first stage so far. I really enjoyed watching all these parks and reading all the stories, going through them. Many very different parks, that's what I really like. Now, if you missed the first stage, you can still submit your entries and then join in a later stage if you want. In the video description you can find the rules document which explains how to join this. So I hope to see many more people join this timeline park contest. It will run throughout this entire year, and every month you'll be tasked with adding a little part to the park. So the rules for the second stage have been released. I hope to see many people join in and yeah, I can't wait to see all the expansions everyone makes to the park, and of course also the stories that follow with the expansion. Alright, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.